my daughter asked our question. She said this question has been asked by some of our precious extended family members in South Africa. She said a question that was asked, why do the I state so emphatically that it is not about the color of one's skin, but rather about the state of conscious energy that one consumes deep within?
Nitty Gritty, the new cycle, with High Priest Kwatamani, Supreme Soothsayer, Soul Seer, Spiritual Healer and Revealer, Chief Elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis Tribe, the oldest, longest sustained, raw and living, pure plant fuel consuming family community order known, over half a century and still going strong.
Today, while the I was preparing to take my early day coconut, to refresh this body and to give out the electrolytes, to give the charge that's needed to push this love supreme in the midst of this pale veil of deception that is no longer able to cover the eyes that see in divine order. And I said to this daughter, a young priestess, a daughter connected with her Kono Mendi lineage, while at the same time interfacing with her sacred ancestral Kemetic line, that line that connects her with her Fanti lineage, that line that crosses the water and connects her again to her Cherokee Seminole line, and all the other different kinds of mixing and mingling that came about as we move into this stage of higher peace conscious thought and reasoning and action. And so I felt from the bottom of my heart that I owed her a clear-cut response.
Since things have commenced to get real intense, gonna take a few minutes, give you 75 cents. Shh, listen if you able.
Now what she said, oh no, Papa, I have begun to comprehend, understand what you're saying. Sometimes when we see the various happenings going on, when we see the vibrations, the sensations of toxic disorder spewed upon populations, seeking to force those populations to get under their domain, under their worship of an energy that clearly and obviously have been shown to be opposed to our sacred ancestral existence as divine children of the sun, emerging out of that sacred garden presence from which we come as green earth solar conscious beings. And when seeing these things, one cannot help but begin to reason. Why is it happening a certain way? Is it about skin color?
It ain't about the color, complexion of your skin.
It's about the state of consciousness you live within.
And why is it that those who actually left the ancestral motherland and got caught in cold dink experiences, who lost their contact with their sacred ancestral essence, lost their contact with their soul-to-soul connection to the Most High, Most Supreme essence of life and supreme love? How can these beings come up on the planet using unnecessary aggression to seek to destabilize Mother Earth, humanity, and all living things? And for what reason? What is the glory? What is the satisfaction? What is the root, foundation, and base of a population who produce those who consider themselves elite? Those who have all of the elements of control by the use of weapons of war and deadly destruction, to then occupy the mineral wealth, the human wealth of populations. What is it that these beings are seeking. And why?
Trying to make sense of it all, then the rise and the fall. Caught up in the midst of a mystery, defined by somebody else's history. Knew deep inside all along something really was wrong, cause I just didn't belong. We talking soul, y'all. We told y'all. We've been divided by nature of energy, feeding self-centered individuality against divine union of he and she.
And what happens when one comes to the end of their time cycle in that body of flesh and simply drop into toxic oblivion?
One can only connect with the nature of the energy that one consumes, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so, the state and condition of man, he and she upon the earth today is that mass populations are indeed possessed by the nature of the opposing predatory energy. In fact, the Seth network has been working overtime to dominate and control the life essence of man, he and she's soul. As a result, the toxic parallel has become so overpopulated with toxic energies that the minefields of explosion have reached epidemic proportions and are set to ignite massive implosion. End of quote. Page 479, the prophetic 12,594-year Benu cycle, encoding the consciousness of higher peace through the divine union of masculine and feminine energy. Book 1 by High Priest Kwatamani. Release date 11/11/2011.
Is it that since these beings can no longer emerge forward again into the supreme circle of life, that there's a curse inflicted upon these beings? A curse that has to be seen during these particular point in times.
Trying to make sense of it all, in the rise and the fall, y'all.
And the first who are last and the last who are first will all suffer the worst if the nature of this cold pale curse is not reversed.
And what then I said to this doctrine, I said, listen, baby, here's what the I and I'm saying. Number one, it is not about the color of one's skin. It is indeed about the state of mental, physical, spiritual consciousness that one seeks and search and idolize and worship deep within. And I said clearly that, my dear young priestess, what it is this. If you have been reduced to a lower and lesser state of consciousness because you have learned, been taught, conditioned, orchestrated to assimilate, integrate, and adopt a culture opposed to your existence, isn't it clear that you then become all of that that you have adopted, assimilated, integrated? And therefore, regardless of your skin, color, and tone, you have become that very same nature, a carbon copy of that nature that opposed your sacred ancestral existence. Now, if you are one who have seen and have had a turn inside your heart about what you have seen, and you refuse to continue that particular parallel into oblivious nothingness, if you have decided that you no longer want to have anything to do with such a nature that have shown to be opposed to Mother Earth, humanity, and all living things thereof, and you happen to be of a different color tone, a different state of melanin expression, would it not then be a fact that you have actually decided mentally, physically, and spiritually to detox, purge, and heal any and all of those things that may have come through your ancestral lineage, an ancestral lineage outside of the supreme circle of life? The being who is a carbon copy of toxic disorder becomes a reflection of that toxic disorder in every way and mean of how they think, reason, and act. The being who have decided within their heart and soul to cease and desist from being a reflection of that oppositional nature that has been orchestrated to appear to be simply a color code, would it not be so that that being has then emerged forward again into one's sacred ancestral state of consciousness? Now here's the problem. It is so difficult to discern simply because the nature of toxic disorder and the various color codes, the elements of skin color and tone, and how well it's been played by a nature that opposed all of our existence upon this earth as man, he and she, to gain domination, control, and rule over mass populations, has ran this trick very well. And the nature of this trick of opposition has been to divide, conquer, and rule over populations, putting them to a state of conflict, confusion, and chaos that will not allow them to see the blessed essence of who we be as green earth solar conscious beings. So what I am saying is this. We must realize, first and foremost, we are of a sacred ancestral soulful essence. And the soul actually has no color code. We have to realize this. We have to realize, however, that there has been a master, a grandmaster oppositional plan at work. And it has, in fact, affected all of those of the various color codes. So one will come upon this earth feeling privileged, as though one has the absolute right over all living things, that they are that God, that vengeful, jealous, envious God of wrath and spite, giving their honor to that God, which is an honor to a nature that opposes divine order, opposes our existence upon this earth, worshiping that. Then there are those who are born who have been reduced and deduced to a lower and lesser state of consciousness, and they have sworn and declared their allegiance to that oppositional nature that was forced upon them, that actually came upon them through rape and torture and other elements. Those who felt like by giving their allegiance to that opposition nature, that one would get the trinkets and the ornaments and all the other elements of material wealth, and that's enough to satisfy their physical state of being. When you look, you can see that what has happened is still there are two different natures of energy, divine order or toxic reality.
The telltale signs of these earth-shifting times were encoded by sacred ancestral Kemetic Naga priests and priestesses in the revealing of Set, the opposing predatory opposition nature of energy, which could not be seen until it manifested its nature for all to see. Look around from sea to shining sea. Lust, lies, illusions, chaos, confusion, death, and deadly destruction. War as a state of consciousness within the self-deified, self-centered, self-destructive ones. Seth, the nomadic renegade, child of regret.
And what truly matters is where one has sworn, declared their allegiance. And it matters not the color of one's skin, but rather the state of mental, physical, and spiritual consciousness in action that one lives within. So if, in fact, we look at this in its true context, there's no way in the world that we will continue to be deceived by thinking that one of a deeply melanin-encoded skin has the pathway to righteousness based upon their skin color and tone. No, 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 no. Because that being can quickly become your worst nightmare in a flash. The sun is precious. The sun is glorious. The essence of earth, wind, rain, and sun is all that we be. That holistic living connection produces the greater essence of who we be. Therefore, it is clear the further away we are from that holistic living essence, the lesser and lesser we'll become tied to the most supreme circle of life. And as a result of that, the ties, the bonds, and the lineages of our sacred ancestral state of being will become less and less and less. Clearly, there is indeed a pale mental mindset. Clearly, there is indeed a state where one can have one's soul on ice. And that in fact, one can become soulless, frozen, deep in a state of toxic reality. One can become semi-soulless because one cannot make up one's mind as to whether one wants to enjoy the privileges of domination, control, and rule, while at the same time trying to get the benefits of acknowledgement of the sacred ancestral culture from which we all know we emerged from. Now the reality is, again, we must realize that when we begin to open our eyes and see beyond the pale veil of deception, we're going to have to come to the reality that Mother Earth is on her J-O-B. And we will melt into a divine oneness. That is to say, those who can have enough strength to maintain their whole life presence, mentally, physically, and spiritually, will continue the melting pot of divine order. It has happened before. The only thing is we've become so disillusioned. We've had so many deceptive teachings. We've been influenced by a nature that actually has no holistic living intelligence about the sacred, ancestral, soulful essence of who we be. And that has been the nature that has dominated, controlled, and ruled over the planet. Warlord mindset, nomadic mindset, seeking and searching to dominate, control, and rule over something. The renegade male who has no other purpose except to continue that hunting, herding, warring, cave-dwelling mindset that has reduced our planet to the state of near destruction. And even with that, having not enough sense to realize, whoa, let's back up. We're going to destroy Mother. And there will be no place for any of us. But you got a consciousness that came out of the cold and freezing state of mental reasoning, regardless of skin color and tone. Either by assimilation, adaptation, or integration of it at some level and stage of the process. And having a difficulty realizing that's the wrong way to go. Too deep in it, because habits are hard to break. And a being is a creature of habit. And a being is also a product of his or her environment. The sacred ancestral communal existence of our being that kept us in a bonding, growing, moving state has been divided, conquered, broken apart into bits and pieces of self-deified individualism. And within that, it gives one the ability to be able to take the wealth of a population and turn it into one's own self-deified glorification. For the moment. Because there's nothing else that's important. You see, we're talking about beings who have been reduced in their mental consciousness under a warlord syndrome that declares monotheistic domination. I am the Almighty. And within that, giving no credence to the fact that there are many mighty, mighty forces that come together to give us the essence of life and supreme love. Ignoring the fact that the first element of whole life supremacy is the divine union of masculine and feminine energy. Forgetting the fact that we are a reflection of Mother Earth, wind, rain, sun, and that those elements flow through our bloodstream. That is the water of life, the bloodstream, the heart beat, the breath of the lungs, and the embodiment that houses our soul. And that ray of heat that's produced by that heartbeat that keeps the blood flowing and keep those organs in functionality. So we can begin again and again and again producing sperm and fertilization of those eggs, those seeds of life within she, the sperm elements of masculinity. Big banging with the essence of femininity.
Quote, let us sojourn into a time and space far beyond the lost and astray pale state of mind. Within this inner journey, focus on quieting your mind in a search for peace, harmony, tranquility, and a reconnection with the essence of life and supreme love. Feel the essence of all that you are beyond the pale mental mindset that is taking you every place outside of your sacred ancestral spirit presence. Feel the pulse of the whole life energy that circulates within the melaninated presence of our supreme ancestral beginning, regardless of your level and degree of melanin or the perceived lack thereof. Feel the warmth as the rays of life penetrate into your whole existence, expanding into the heartbeat and the sacred sounds of a breath of life. End of quote. Page 37, Banu Book 1, by High Priest Kwatamani.
And it's so simple. It is so simple. We can look upon every single element. We have been gifted by our most supreme seen and unseen ancestors to be able to look, listen, learn, and discern the simple, basic elements of life so we can glow and flow with it. But instead, humanity has been under the spell of a toxic nature of energy that has been explained very well to we when we think about Set, Sutek, satanic nature of opposition to divine order. That envious, jealous, greedy mindset that knows nothing else except self. And we have to break all ties with such a matter, such a thing, such a factor. In order to break those ties, one is going to have to look, listen, learn, and discern the most supreme, seen and unseen essence of life and supreme love. This is where we're at. So to my daughter and to all of the sisterins of her sisterhood vibration, our extended family members in South Africa, in West Africa, in East Africa, in North Africa, in Central Africa, in the Americas, in the Caribbean, in the European context. And we cannot forget that extended element of our Asian vibration and all the islands in and round and about. All of those various elements that have been intruded and invaded on by oppositional nature to turn them out of divine order and push them into a state of toxic disorder where conflict, confusion, and chaos will be the main state. We have to all begin to reason with the fact that we actually have a divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, and responsibility to who we be, to Mother Earth, to win a breath of fresh air. We cannot continue to pollute it. Do you comprehend? It is the breath of life that we intake to continue our existence. Common sense. We cannot continue to pollute the water. That is the element that infuses the blood flow to keep our bodies detoxed, purged, and healing. We cannot destroy, contaminate, pollute, intoxicate the soil. Because that's where our food is emerging out of to continue our existence as humanity. Because it is a time for the divine gathering of the sacred few of the few of the few. And we have to begin to comprehend that there is an almighty solar energy, and that there's not a whole lot that we can do about it in this existence, but we can never ever forget that that solar sphere had a mother and a father, Sirius A and Sirius B, and it continues holistically that the divine union of masculine and feminine energy is our existence. We can clearly comprehend why those who were of conflict, confusion, and chaos said, when they looked, and not really comprehending what they were getting from ancient Kemet, and they looked in the air, then they recognized the heavens, and the Almighty sits up in the sky. They got it all mixed up because it was a warlord's mindset. And what that warlord saw was an advantage that he could establish if he then declared that this almighty, omnipotent God anointed him to control all things, and that all of man, he and she, should be a slave to him. And the slaves should honor and be obedient to their Lord and Master. And this has caused planetary disaster because all of the blood spill, which is the sacrifice that that energy calls for, has actually spilled so far and wide that it's very difficult for man, he and she, to think and reason and act within divine order. That out-of-bounds vibration has caused so much conflict, confusion, and chaos that it is too easy to comprehend why one would say, oh no, it is about the color of one's skin. The only thing is that declaration actually is a declaration of war against your own being. Because now, if that be the case, you can no longer see, sense, feel. You cannot look, listen, learn, and discern those who oppose your existence. It will become very easy to implant those who actually become like puppets, those who actually have become clone-like beings serving the will of their master. This is the disaster that humanity is facing. So, in that vibration, there is nowhere to look, nowhere to discern, no way to learn anything except to realize that it is a very dismal state that we're facing. You can't tell left from right. You don't know who's who and what. Because we're looking from the physical presence that has manifested out of a conflict, confusion, and chaotic orchestration. And we can no longer see the soulful essence of who one be. That's where our looking, listening, learning, discerning must focus at this point in time upon this glorious earth if we are to continue our survival. No, 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 no. The I have no right to determine that someone have not the ability to connect with that most supreme seen and unseen essence of who we be. We all emerge out of one ancestral whole life connection. There has been a break. Many have broken the ties of that sacred ancestral existence. Many of the ties have been broken due to the environmental factors and the other elements that have actually become a reflection of our living state of being. Whatever it be, it is our challenge as soul-infused beings to recognize that we're moving on a sojourn. And the embodiments is where we be and how we manifest upon this earth. We must begin to comprehend that yes, there are soulless bodies walking around, semi-soulless bodies walking around, weak and depleted soulless beings walking around, and they are very damaging to the whole life presence of who we be as man, he, and she. But we cannot put it into a divide, conquer, separated state. Because if we do that on many occasions, we actually X out those who would be so precious to us. And we actually embrace those who could be so toxic to us. We got to look at this thing from the third eye of existence, from the soulful essence of who we be, and find peace and love and harmony within our existence. And watch how Mother Earth is functioning now. Remember, the planet's getting hot, like it or not. Remember that it will require melanin encodes to survive.
Open our eyes.
You see, according to ancient prophecy, melanin will determine humanity's destiny and absolute necessity in a green earth solar reality. Universal law exposed the flaw as the pale mental mindset begins to thaw. Divine order shows the cons and the pros of mental encodes diametrically opposed to the melanin encoded souls, children of the sun. And when all is said and done, white supremacy be public enemy number one.
Open our eyes, that we may see the soulful essence of who we truly be. Open our eyes.
We have to comprehend who, why, when, where our experiences have come from. We must comprehend that at this particular point in time, the best thing that we can do is to focus on detoxing mentally, physically, spiritually, purging the toxic attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs. Receive our blessings. Move quickly into the essence of the divine union of one, he and she, so that we can go forward and multiply into every offspring and vibration of the generation next, the holistic living essence of divine social, economic, family, community order. Yes, I'm going to say it again and again and again and again. In order to do that, we have to consume from the fruits of the tree of life. That we must consume the raw and living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, and herbs, and spice, and enjoy this sacred ancestral soul-to-soul venture through life. Because life is for the living. in divine order.
The children of Seth came pale and cold. Shake the devil out. Shake the devil out the children. The children came pale and cold. Rise up, children of the sun, and behold.
It ain't about the color, complexion of your skin.
It's about the state of consciousness you live within. The children of Seth came pale and cold.